evaluation, what can you expect from this speech? First, I'll bring the characterization of the motion and the model that proposition brings forward in this motion, and then I will analyze the first argument that we bring in our team line. Let's start, therefore, with characterization. Two pieces of characterization. First, the unfairness in school. At the moment, a lot of discussion in school arises from accusation of unfairness due to biases or preferences. This is intrinsic to the school structures due to constant interactions between teachers and students. And the natural generates appreciation between some and animosity between others. So think about it, panel. Like, wouldn't you feel sorry for a student that just lost their mom? This would kind of push the teacher to be like kinder with them in tests. As proposition, we don't agree with this because we think that tests should be evaluated just on their performances. Like, think about it. Teachers can give them other types of help. They can give them private lessons if they need. They can give them like postpone their quizzes to help them take more time, get more help if they are struggling. But they shouldn't be influenced in how they are judging evaluation. Comparatively, if a teacher dislikes the student, like for example, based on previous disagreements, their performance evaluation won't be heavily affected by the influence of the teacher and what they think about it. This gives a lot of because this gives a lot of stress to students, often felt misjudged or prejudiciated to from achieving a certain result, and also to teachers under constant pressure of being accused and criticized. No thank you. Second, the definition of assessment. The act of judging or deciding the quality of action or a test, like the synonym of evaluation. This means that in our model, AI will just collaborate with teachers during the correction and the evaluation. This tests will kind of be the same, but just the assessment will differ. So this leads to our model. First, the human will correct the test. Second, the AI will correct the test and the correction of the teacher. Third, if the results don't align, the teacher can see the differences and reconsider their evaluation, like if they've done a mistake. Fourth, the grade will be 20% to the teacher and 80% to the AI, and both evaluations will be published, so the student will see both the evaluation of the teacher and the evaluation of the AI teacher. So, two specific aspects of this process. First, the AI will have access to any information about students, their life, their demographics, just the grade that they're getting, the grade like the year they're attending in school. And second, teachers can upload materials that they have used and tell AI which topics they were talking about, which topics did they explain to the students, so the AI just doesn't treat them like university students even if they're in first grade. So, what are the metrics? First, which site demonstrates whether or not traditional exams should be replaced by AI assisted assessments? And second, which site proves that their evaluation is fair? So our team line is made of two arguments. First, it grants fair evaluation, and second, AI, having access to a larger pool of information, grants less mistakes are made. So at this point, I will move on to my first argument. So AI increases fairness. What are the grounding of this argument? First, we should care about fairness because most tests are the evaluation of somebody's performances and effort. And therefore, it is essential to just consider these factors in the evaluation. Granting fairness is essential because it grants equal possibilities to all students, no matter their background. Okay, the point is, if I'm a black student and my teacher is biased towards me because I'm a black student, that won't affect my performance because my teacher won't have most of the say on the grade. Therefore, my performance, the fact that I'm a good student, the fact that I put an effort in what I've done, is the only factor that's going to be evaluated during the evaluation. So, this ensures that all students are treated equally, letting just their performances speak for them. That's the main point that we need to think about. The second ground of this argument. Humans are naturally biased because they can't select algorithmically which pool of information to use when assessing performances, like AI can, in the meaning that AI can decide which areas of the information it has to use to evaluate, while the human, the brain can just say, okay, I will just ignore the fact that I fought with the students for 3 years and just evaluate the performances. I mean, if they can do it, good for them, but most people can't. And furthermore, teachers spend a lot of time with students in class. Therefore, they create a relationship that will later influence. In the meaning that, for example, let's think about my teammate. We prepared a lot of motions together. We debated a lot of motions together. I have an idea of them. When I'm giving them feedback on the debate, every time I am still influenced about what I think about them, what I have experienced with them. This will happen also to teachers because they have spent time with them.
Do you think the effort shown throughout the year is far more important than the actual performance of the exam?
Okay, this kind of is like a failed double, kind of like a failed you can do both in the sorry. You can do both. Like you can evaluate both situations in both time. In the meaning that during the grade you have 20% is still evaluated by the teacher, so kind of that part still slightly influenced the grade. But still, we do believe that the most important thing we have to think about is the evaluation during the performance. Later in the work, like they won't whoever gives you like for example a job, they won't look at your like resume and think, okay, but maybe they had some struggles during your first year, therefore it took them 6 years of university. They will just see that it took you more. Like it's kind of like preparing you for already what you will experience later in the work. So we do believe that it's actually more important to like push to understand that you have to do your best during the evaluation time. The judges can't know if in prep time we had a better idea or if in past debate we were much better than what we are now. They are evaluating the performance we are doing now. That's why it's good. That's like a clear example on why it's important to avoid just the performance. But sorry, let's move on with the point. So it creates in relationship between teachers and students that influence the grade and how teachers give the grade. So for example, again, if a discussion that or a disagreement, it would make me feel like I will give you a lower grade. If we don't share political ideas, I will give you a lower grade. If I feel like I don't approve your your log choices, or if I don't like your skin color, I will give you a lower grade. So how do we word the claim? Teachers, having access to the students' ethnographic and history, are even just unconsciously biased. On the comparative, in our world, AI doesn't know who is who is going to do the test. Therefore, there can be a bias on such. This means that comparatively, having access to both corrections means that we get three main impacts for teachers and students. First, we get less stress for both teachers and students, as like students won't feel constantly misjudged, and teachers won't feel the constant stress of demonstrating everything they're doing is fair in the most efficient way. AI will also help teachers because it makes, like, if a student will accuse them, they will have, okay, but the AI told you so, like, you have made a mistake. Second, it leads to a fair judgment system that can consider only the performance of the person. As I already explained, this is the most important part. We need to evaluate the performance at the moment. And third, it lets students and teachers highlight when biases are happening. This means that students can't accuse teacher being biased if AI agrees with the teacher. You've made a mistake, just deal with it. Second, students have control method to protest against blunt teachers' biases. In the meaning that if a teacher has discriminated me and the AI clearly states that this was, for example, not a mistake or I deserve a fairly higher grade, I have a control method to tell, for example, the principal that the teachers have been behaving biased. So for all these reasons, I have never been part to oppose. Thank you, everybody.
We thank the first speaker for opposition team for the time speech that was 8 minutes and 4 seconds. And if everyone's ready, we leave the floor to the first speaker of opposition team.
I will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. My name is Montagna Francesco, and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. First of all, I'd like to start by saying that for me it's a pleasure to be here to discuss the simulating statement with all of you. We are the opposition team, so with our speech we are going to prove you that school can't replace traditional exams with AI-assisted assessment. First of all, I'd like to rebuttal some of the argumentation of the first speaker of the opposition team. He talked about the lack of fairness due to preferences of teachers. However, he talked about only specific situations. We have to consider the most real situation, a teacher that do his job in the correct way. We can't talk about the abstract possibility that teacher can have preferences. So we have to consider only the general situation that, of course, a teacher does his job in the correct way. Moreover, the substitution with AI doesn't solve also these possible problems of preferences. In fact, if a teacher wants to help a student to do preferences, he can easily do it also with the AI. He can change also the grade given by the AI. So the speech of the first speaker of the proposition is irrelevant and inefficient and consider only particular and limited situations. Moreover, I would like...
I'm sorry, you never said that you can change it.
I didn't accept your QI.
Oh, sorry.
Moreover, it talked about AI support for the teacher. However, the motion says to replace the teacher, not add them assess. Moreover, I would like to give you the definition of the keyword we didn't give them to you. So, first of all, what are traditional exams? Exams that are an important moment and opportunity of learning for the students that have the possibility to learn how to deal, for example, with stress and pressure. Moreover, these exams are not based on mathematics algorithms that don't consider the human aspect of the students, but they are subjected to teachers' validation that is not a technological machine, but a person able to understand personalities and difficulties of his students. This is the key point. Students are not numbers. They are people with real feelings, so they could, for example, in a particular moment have some difficulties in a particular day. So their validation can be based only on technological algorithms, but also on the empathy and the human abilities and skills, we can say, of their teachers. Moreover, what is AI-assisted assessment? We are referring to the grading system that wouldn't be managed by a human teacher, but by AI. That is not able, as I said before, to recognize person behind the screen. It isn't able to recognize the feelings of students, it isn't able to recognize difficulties of students, and the most important thing, it isn't able to recognize his effort. So the risk is having grades that don't mirror the effort, the difficulties that... Yes, of course.
Oh, the module itself says AI assisted. AI doesn't just assist the teacher, it doesn't replace the teacher in the grading part. Like, that's really the motion.
But it talked about that substitution of the hate assessment on the ability of the student of the teacher to give a grade to his students. We can't accept this because the risk is having grades that don't mirror the effort, the difficulties that involve students in a particular moment, and these real skills. But we have the risk to have grades based on the we can say we have the risk to have grades based only on the performance on that particular day. But in that day, students can have difficulties and can have problems, and this can affect their general grade. Moreover, I'd like to give you the definitions of the word replace. With referring, we refer to a complete substitution of abilities of validation of the teacher with technologies. And the impact is terrible. The impact is always the same. Grades based just on numbers that don't consider the human complex aspects of a student. Now I'd like to give you I would like to make my team line clear. I am the first speaker, so I will propose a counter model that we build basing on negative aspects of the model of the proposition team, on the model proposed by the statement. We analyze this model and realize that doesn't consider the human and formative aspect of school. We find a solution. Retake the efficiency of the AI, of course, that we acknowledge it, and the human aspects of teacher. So Maria, the second speaker of my team, will deal with the second point, connected with the impact of our model on school, and she will deal also with the third point, connected with the impact of our model on the role of teacher. The conclusion that we are going to give you is this: schools can't replace traditional exams with a system assessment. Due to AI, can't give a real grade to the student, can mirror his abilities, his difficulties, and his effort. That is important. The two, we are humans. Now I'd like to present you to propose you our counter model. AI should work together with the teacher, not completely substitute him. This is the key concept that we have to support. We should have the AI that supports the teacher, not replace him. It's a way to help teachers deal with the burden of his work, of course. And in some cases, for example, teachers have to deal with hundreds of exams, and we acknowledge that the AI is a good solution, is a way to help the teachers. However, in our counter model, we have elaborated an idea that includes the possibility for every student to express in the real way their real skills, their real abilities. They are much more than just a grade. This is very important. Let's think about, for example, a university professor with hundreds of students and an exam to validate to give a grade. The AI, we acknowledge, is an important resource for the teacher, who can, for example, easily deal with his work without having any problem, without spending much time. However, After that, it's important to, you can say, to consider the human component of the teacher in the assessment. That is crucial. We cannot replace teachers with machines. We have to protect the teachers. We have to protect their abilities to give a real grade, a human grade to students. The two students are not numbers. Students in some situations can have problems. I would like to continue, sorry. The teacher must, so after that, according to our counter model, after the support of the AI giving grades, the teacher must check again the grades so as to associate a face, a personality behind the grade. This isn't preferences, because teachers, we know that in the most cases do their jobs in the correct way. So the important that the teachers check again the grades so as to associate the effort, the difficulties and the abilities of the student that gave that particular performance in that situation. So students are not numbers, I want to underline, and numbers given, and they are, and students are not numbers, and numbers given in this way can define students. Only the teacher can give a real, effective grade to his students that mirrors not just his results, not just the performance that the students had in that situation, but also his effort, his real personality. Everyone, of course, make an effort when prepare an exam. Everyone can have difficulties in a period of his life, and only the teacher can consider these aspects and can give an effective and real grade that mirrors the abilities of the student is in the best way. This is the end of my speech. Thanks for your attention.
Next speaker for the final speech, that was 8 minutes and 3 seconds. And if everyone's ready, we give the floor to the second speaker of Proposition C.
I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I would like to start by rebutting what the opposition has stated. So they said that teachers do the job in the correct ways nowadays, but that teachers do the job in the correct way, and we don't have to substitute the teacher with AI. But we never stated that. The opposition house never engaged with our case, our action plan, that the first speaker took time to explain and mechanize it. We said, like the first speaker of the opposition house just stated that teachers can substitute AI because the teachers does the job in the correct way, but didn't mechanize it, didn't say how, didn't say what. So my first speaker, he took time to mechanize each point and explain how teachers are biased, and the opposition house didn't engage that, and not only, but didn't mechanize their rebuttal. They also talked about the fact that we want to replace the teacher with AI, but we never stated that. My first speaker said that we want an 80-20 relationship with AI and the teacher. 80% of the work will be done by the AI. That's not replacing. Please, panel, engage with the fact, no thank you, that the opposition house didn't engage with our case at all. We never stated that we should replace the teacher with AI, because as the POI that my first speaker did, the motion stated that it's AI assisted. So AI would assist, would help. And I would like to say that Pro brings a model that falls on profile, because the motion said that the AI would assist, help. So even if it would, the AI would replace the teacher, we will still have the same impacts. And I will later mechanize in my speech how we would still win, even if we stated that we never stated that, because the opposition house didn't engage at all with our case. They completely ignored it and took the things that we didn't say, like the fact that we want to, no thank you, that we want to replace the AI, We never said that we want to replace the teacher with AI. They completely ignore our case and continue on their line without engaging with our view. And also, the first speaker of the opposition house took a really long time to state how students are not numbers. We never said that they are numbers. We just said that we have to evaluate the performance of the student. We are not saying that students can have a bad day or teachers can have a bad day. They both can have bad days. But as my first speaker said, if a student has some kind of difficulties, then teacher will postpone the test. We are not completely replacing the human part because we, as a proposition house, we understand its importance and its values. And also, the first speaker talked about the fact that the effort of the student is not mirrored into the evaluation. But what is the performance? The performance is the mirror of the effort that the student took. Of course, you can be distracted, you can think about other things on that day, but if you took the effort to follow a class and the teacher recognized that, then that will also be mirrored in your performance. So that doesn't work at all. So I would like to start to talk about my point, and it's the fact that AI having access to a larger pool of data can guarantee not running into mistakes. In the status quo, teachers are often as stressed as students. They have to correct assignments, essays, and tests in a short amount of time. At the same time, they are allowed to make any mistakes. Even if a teacher is an expert in a specific topic or subject, we all are humans. Humans can remember everything. In fact, teachers don't always correct the test just by memory, but they like to fact check and revise their notes while they're correcting. This can guarantee that there won't be any mistakes. Not every teacher fact checks everything, every reference, date, etc. And the one who does can still make errors because, panel, remember that we all are human and we never stated that we should replace this part.
Right.
Yes.
Before you talked about integration between AI and teacher and the relationship between 80-20, but you are the proposition, you should support the statement, and the same talks about replace, not integration.
Okay, so the motion never said they should replace the traditional test. We shouldn't, the motion doesn't say that we should replace the teacher. The traditional exam is that a teacher corrects 100% of the work. We are replacing that tradition by putting an action plan that my first speaker took time to explain, that is an 80-20. The motion doesn't state that the teacher should be replaced. Traditional exams are different from teachers, and my first speaker took time to explain that. So I would like to talk about the fact that AI, as the model said, knows what the specific topic was discussed in class. They know what the topic of the specific test was. But it still can access to a larger pool of data because like AI knows what the test is about, but AI has a larger pool of data. The teacher initially will correct the test as normally as they used to do. Afterwards, the AI will judge not only the student's performance, but also the teacher correction. After the AI response, the teacher can, as my first speaker said, correct their mistakes and decide if they want to change the grade. So teacher can be less stressed since they don't have to revise the correction. That even as the opposition house said, like university teachers are really stressed because they have to correct 100 tests a day, basically. So they don't have to revise their correction, searching for any time of error, even the distraction ones. So the AI assistant assessment, accessing a larger pool of data, can make the teacher's job easier. Not only that, but it betters the student confidence in making references. Think about it, panel. If in an English essay you want to quote a philosopher and their philosophy, you can be sure that your English teacher is an expert on the topic and can recognize your knowledge. AI not only guarantees the truthfulness of the quote or reference, helping the teacher, but can also reward the student who made the quote and can analyze the truthfulness and its relevance. It will also reward the student during an oral test. Let's say the teachers sometimes tend to forget everything that has been said. The AI can guarantee that the assessment will be fair and can judge the whole performance. So our model not only brings fairness, but but can also make the teacher's job easier and reward the student by accessing to a larger pool of data. I would like to take a few seconds to do a little comparative. In the proposition house, fairness, there is fairness, because the fair result due to bias reduction guaranteed by AI, that will only know the school year of the student, stepping in during the assessment process and highlighting even the errors that in the teacher correction. In the opposition word, pushes a narrative that does not bring to a fair outcome, because the way of judging and making assessment is biased, as my first speaker took time to explain that, and the opposition house completely ignored the point, just stated that it's not like that, didn't mechanize it, and didn't engage with our case at all. So for that, I'm so proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, the speakers are defined speech that was 8 minutes and 2 seconds. And if everyone's ready, we can leave the floor to the second speaker of opposition team.
I'm starting 3, 2, 1. Good morning everyone, I'm Maria Carella and I'm the second speaker on my team. Before starting with our second argumentation, I'd like to rebuttal some of the things said by the proposition team. I'd like to read again the motion of today. This House believes the school should replace traditional exams with AI-assisted assessments. We actually think we don't understand deeply the motion, because the motion says we have to replace the way these exams are assessed. So it says that we have to use AI in order to correct the exams and not the teachers. But you propose a model that actually doesn't respect what the motion wants you to do. So you're actually saying that we are right, saying that we have to give 50%, we have to, let's say, have AI together with the role of teachers while you have to correct the exam. So we actually think that you didn't understand the motion. You said that we listen to what you said, but we actually listen to the model you propose, and we think that it doesn't fit with what you should actually respect basing on the motion of today. Saying that, I'd like to go with my second and third argumentation. We have proposed you a counter model that actually solves all the problems that the model of the pro teams has. Our model succeeds in unifying and integrating the human social aspect typical of a human being that we cannot just abandon with the objective and efficiency of the AI. Because the second speaker obviously talked about the fact that a lot of time teachers are stressed by all the exams they have to correct, and we also agree with that. That's why our counter model, if you listen to our first speaker, our counter model proposed a model where first of all, yes?
Sorry, what is the difference between your counter model and our action plan? Because that's not very clear.
The difference between our model and yours is that you didn't understand the motion, and so don't say what the motion said, because the model shall replace, and you don't say, your model doesn't respect what you actually say, but we do. So our model is actually about the position side, and you're saying that we are right basically because you didn't focus on the word replaced that is present in the motion. So continuing with my speech, I was saying that teacher, yes, are stressed, and so we understand that sometimes AI is efficient, is more efficient, and also corrects exams faster, so it can be useful. But at the same time, we cannot just ignore that we are human beings, so we have a human, also an emotive life, that aspects of our life that you cannot just ignore. So our second argumentation is focuses on the role of schools as an institution in general, and we will demonstrate to you the schools isn't just about giving information that you have to learn in order to do an exam and then a high grade, but we think the school is more about doing a path, is about entering that school and then going out with more information, but also with skills that can help you during your life. And we firmly believe that having exams corrected by the AI just can't allow to school in order to have this formative aspect that for us is really important. Because let's think, what is school? What is the purpose of it? Is the purpose of school giving a formality, or is it to teach you how to be okay with yourself maybe, or anyway to give you important information that will be useful for your life? We think that giving just graduation based on AI, or anyway 80% on AI, doesn't consider the difficulties that maybe a student could actually have during the exam. Let's think about a student that studies all the year with really much careful about learning all the things that he actually wants to study, but then has a problem in his family. Maybe his father has a problem, his mother has died, so he's dealing with difficulties that can actually let him concentrate on the exam, on his rejected, can let him concentrate on the exam is facing. Is it actually fair that that student that is really careful has been careful during the whole year in order to have high grade because he wants to have information that will be useful for his life? Is it correct that these students, only because he's facing problems in his private life, has a low grade? Let's also think about the psychological impact that this could be. This could have to the student. If a student is facing a bad time, the teacher don't use the human aspect in order to understand it and so help him. Isn't it just unfair? Isn't it that we're going in a world that don't see about the human aspects of the human being? Yes?
So if the person isn't ready, should the teacher certify that they're ready even if they're not, just because they feel pity for them?
No, in fact we're saying, I talked about students who study all the year and have actually the information they have to be, but they're just facing a bad time, or maybe they can consecrate during that specific exam, so they don't give their best. We're not talking about students who don't study the whole year. It's obviously that in that case also teachers in general will never let them pass the year, but we're talking about students who deserve to go to have a high grade, or maybe just to don't be voted, don't have a graduation based on AI systems, who actually doesn't care about what you're facing, if you have a bad time or not. I passed a bad time in my life, and I know that they really enjoyed the help of my teacher they gave to me. So we think that school is not just a degree factory, but the exam itself is something formative, and we think that the pro team doesn't actually understand it. Now let's pass to the third documentation. That is that actually think about the role of the teacher. We think that the teacher is not just a robot. It's not something to just say, okay, this is correct, this is not correct, this is right, this is not, because he actually cares about the students. During our career in school, we enter in the school and we go out, and we have a sort of relationship with our teachers. They are like our second parents. They are mothers or fathers that help us when we have difficulties. So it's obvious that sometimes they can help us also with a little higher grade in order to give a motivation in order to go on. If I'm passing a bad time and the teacher doesn't care about it, would I feel better or worse? I will feel a little bit worse because I have a parent, an adult that could care about me but just doesn't. Why? What can he help me? What can he help me in order to grow? We think that school is something concern a path, and we can do this path, we can grow together just if the teacher actually helps us to do it. Not just giving grades, not just having school as a degree factory, but having school as a formative place where teachers are not only based on grades, but based on also the personality of the students and also understanding the students studies a lot or not, even if the exam doesn't go well. There's a reason why me and my teammates have never been prouder to defend the position team, because we don't want to live in a world where the AI substitute the teacher during while correcting the exam. Thank you for your attention. This is my speech.
Here for the fine speech that was 7 minutes and 56 seconds, and we leave the floor to the third speaker of the opposition team.
Scusami, Laura, tu sei Laura?
Sì, sono io, Laura.
Sì, ci,
Ah,
no,
scusa,
aspetta, no, ci scambiamo
no,
per parlarci, scusate.
Just 1 second, please. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The moment the proposition loses too much time talking about the reading of the motion, then they're losing this debate. Because let's think about that. Why would you spend so much time telling us that we stated the motion wrong? We are proposition. Therefore, we bring the definitions. If you don't agree, you can say that. But the motion clearly states AI assisted. So we can replace. We have to find a way of replacing the traditional method that doesn't use AI at all, but with AI assistant. Therefore, that means that we are not replacing the teachers completely. We are just giving them a tool that would help them. So we are not replacing the teacher. Final, please remember that. And even if you believe that in pro work, 100% of like our method will be assisted, like if 100% will be assessed by AI, our points still stand. Why? Because that would still bring a fairer and a fairer way of judging, as AI makes less mistakes. So considering the overall aspect.
Joy,
Yeah.
you said you are the proposition and you bring definitions, but you didn't give any definitions.
We actually gave definitions, and anyway, as I'm clearly stating, that is not really important, as the motion is still wrong, as it says AI assisted, so that's kind of something that's clearer. But anyway, I wouldn't lose too much time on that. Anyway, and even if that was wrong, like even if our definition was wrong, our point will still stand, as I was explaining, because it is a fairer system, and AI makes less mistakes. So that means that even if we would leave 100% to the AI, we will still get a fairer way of judging, where the exam only where it's considered only the exam, because the exam is the proof of your path. If you think that the path is the only important thing that matters, why should I let someone pass, okay, that is not ready for it, just because they lost their mom, just because they had a bad day? Why would I make someone go through make someone go through if they are not ready for it? Exam is the proof of your path. Exam is what state that you are ready for it. So now I will go through the two main classes of this debate. First, in which word rating is fairer, and second, in which word grants a higher success rate in correction. First, in which word grading is fairer. We clearly explain as proposition with a model and with a lot of mechanization why it is fair for AI to assist to the teacher, because teacher have biases. Opposition is trying to tell us that most teachers are correct, most teachers are not affected by bias. But we, as the proposition, and my first speaker, clearly stated how it is impossible for teachers to not have bias, and how everyone is affected. Teachers know their students, they know their story, so unconsciously they're of course affected by them. I'm affected by, my first speaker also brought you an example. I'm affected when I give feedback to my debaters, like to my squad, because we did a lot of debate together, so therefore I'm affected. I know them, I know when they do bad, when they do good. I'm affected by what they are doing. So that means that I will be affected in the judging and in the judgment. And that is not always a positive thing. Most of the time that is a negative thing, for two reasons on that. First of all, if a teacher have a positive judgment on someone, that will lead them to pass with a higher rate
than they are actually ready for. So that would mean that they maybe will pass the exam, but they're not actually ready to pass it. And if the teacher has a bad judgment on the student, that would only be bad for them, because then they wouldn't pass their exam when they're ready. Therefore, the system wouldn't be fair. But our system, with the AI-based system, would be fair, because it would show to everyone that that student is fairer. So we are protecting the general system, because they try to tell us, oh, most teachers are correct. Okay, if we even take into account that most teachers are correct, then AI is just a helping tool. Then AI is just like helping us, like clearly stating that that is fair. But in those minor cases where it is not fair, AI is pointing it out, while with teachers, you're just letting it go through. So the second class is which word grants a higher success rate in correction. As I clearly stated, it is a higher success if it is AI based, because AI can run whether it is ready or not. So therefore it shows. AI can show if someone is ready. It can clearly state that, even if the teacher has bias against the student, because AI doesn't have bias, so therefore it is most correct. So it is also if a teacher makes mistake. My second speaker brought a whole point which wasn't actually touched by opposition on how teachers can make mistakes. Sometimes when reviewing the exam, they make mistakes. They are human, so of course they also their pool of knowledge it's not perfect. Sometimes they do not know some things, and AI can assist them with that. They can show them the data. They can show that they are correct. Yes.
We never said teachers are perfect. In fact, in our model, we have 50% AI and 50% teacher.
Okay, but that's against emotion, because we said that it's AI assistant. But even taking that into account, I didn't say that you said that that teachers are always correct. I say that you said, and I clearly quote, you said the teachers most of the time do their job in the correct way, and that's what your first speaker of the opposition said. So therefore, you said what I just stated. But anyway, without losing time on that, teachers make mistakes, as I clearly stated. Therefore, AI can be a tool for the teachers. It can help them to be less stressed, to notice their mistake, to learn from them, to better grade a student. Do we really want to stay the way we are when we can improve it and find a better solution that is fair not only to the student but can also help the teacher, as it clearly helped them not making mistakes, knowing when they made a mistake. So I want to remind you also what are the metrics for this debate. So which side demonstrate whether or not traditional exams should be replaced by AI assisted, and which side proves that their evaluation is fairer. And we clearly explain and to you why it is fairer to have AI assisting the judgment, and how that can bring to a better solution for everyone and a better world. That's the end of my speech.
The speaker for the final speech that was 8 minutes and 5 seconds. And we leave the floor to the third speaker of opposition team to take.
Will start in 3, 2, 1. I'm Christina, the third speaker of the opposition team. So we judges can expect 3 things from my speech. First of all, we analyze the point of clashes that I've seen throughout the debate, rebuttaling to what the opposition team has proposed. I will strengthen our case and explaining to you why the model we have proposed is definitely better from the one the proposition proposed, and why we believe that we won this debate. First of all, let's rebut what the proposition team said. Well, you believe that you basically never make mistake. You must never have a bad day if you believe that the performance surely outcomes the effort that you've shown throughout the whole exam. throughout the whole year. You can't decide just from one day your grade of the entire school year. It's impossible, and that's against the concept of the human being itself. We can't have teachers evaluate your test by just analyzing the final grade on your exam, because that is basically unfair. No, sorry. You guys, the same way we do in school, we have bad days, days where we feel under the weather, and that's normal because we're humans. And that doesn't mean that we should have a worse grade just because of that. You can't say that their performance obviously mirrors what you've done throughout the years, because that's not the case. One day, one single day, the day of an exam, a couple of hours, can decide for the whole other years. Also, you said that we thought teachers most of the times don't make mistakes. And that's what we said. Okay, I agree with you. And in some of the cases, that's not correct. I understand that. Teachers make mistakes because they are human, but so does AI. Try giving ChatGPT a math problem, and then you'll tell me what it tells you. I 100% will assure you that with high-level math problems, it will not give you the right answer. And even if it does, there will be mistakes throughout the whole process. If you don't believe me, try it, and then we'll talk about it. Now, let's analyze the point of clashes. The first major clash of this debate was the concept, the interpretation itself of the motion. We've understood why we believe that AI-assisted assessment refers to AI alone. You guys multiple times said that AI-assisted means that AI is going to assist the teacher in the evaluation of the program, but that's not the case. AI-assisted in 2025 means basically AI, and that is what we're talking about. If you said that the teacher is not going to be completely substituted by the AI, that's what we said. We believe that in this word that the motion has proposed, the AI is going to replace the traditional exam method. And if exams nowadays are being evaluated by the teachers completely, by replacing it, you're not going to do the same, meaning that you will have AI do it for the teacher instead of them. So that is the first and most important point of clash, and refers to the interpretation of the motion itself. And that's why we found that our counter model is very much similar to yours, to your model, because we have understood the motion completely and widely. The second point of clash refers to the fact that we believe effort is more important than the singular date performance. And we've expressed this concept throughout our debate multiple of times, because when you are a human being, you have to understand that everyone makes mistakes, and that does not reflect you as a person. You can decide just from one day if you're going to pass the exam or not. There are lots of surroundings that should take into consideration. You talked about how many of the times the biases of one professor can affect how he decides to evaluate a student, and that's true. Most of the times there are racist professors who would rather have pass a white student instead of a black one. And that is obviously a sad reality, but there's nothing we can do about it. We're not talking about those specific cases in which the professor has decided that he doesn't want the teacher to pass because of his skin color.
Guy,
Yes.
why are you then talking about specific case where someone is having a bad day, but then you're saying that you can't
Yeah,
use it?
that's exactly the case, because it's the same. You guys talked about the negative aspects of having a professor evaluate your test. We're talking about the positive aspect of it. You said that, imagine if your mother died. Your first speaker said that. You are obviously going through the worst time of your life if your mother died. And you are not ready to take an exam, not because you don't know the stuff you're going to be examining on, but because you simply lost your parents. No, sorry, we refuse a PI. I said I was confused. But because you lost your parents and you can't mentally be prepared to take an exam. A teacher acknowledges that. A teachers understand that you right now are going through a lot and can't take the exam, can't sit the exam, and maybe let you postpone it, or evaluates you through the test that's done throughout the whole year, not just a single day of your exam. A AI-assisted exam wouldn't be the same, because then you would have a computer, because AI is basically a machine, deciding whether or not you pass the exam. That doesn't have a formative aspect either, because not accepting your PIs, it's 1 minute until the end of the debate. A teacher can give you feedbacks about what you've done wrong and how to improve, because the teacher itself wants you to improve, wants you to get better, whereas a machine doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your personality, doesn't know anything about you and how you work with yourself, or you work with people, and how you commit to the work you've done in general. And that is of a fundamental importance in our team life. Also, we believe that we won this debate because we have analyzed the key concepts of the learning process itself, which also involves the grading system, because an exam is also a moment of learning as well. It is a highly formative experience. You can't replace it with a useless grade. You have to understand that schools are not just factories, and not just degree factories. You don't have to go there just to get a piece of paper. You have to learn something. And the learning process also involves the examination process. So if you really want a world where your grades are being evaluated by a machine, then so be it. I and my team would rather have an institute that makes me improve in any circumstances, in any ways possible, not just by giving me a number, because I'm not a number, you are not a number, we're all much more than that. That is the end of my speech. Thank you all.
Thanks to the speaker for the fine speech. That was 7 minutes and 45 seconds. And we move towards the end of this debate with revised speeches, of course, starting with opposition team.
Okay, I will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone, again, and I'd like to thank you all for this stimulating speech, but I'll start with for this stimulating debate, sorry. Now I'll start with my speech. The motion today is to help believe that schools should replace traditional exams with AI-assisted assessments, and we had the burden to explain you why this shouldn't be done, because it have negative impacts on our lives. We are going to present you the 2 words of the opposition and proposition teams and explain you why our model, our word is a better word for everyone. The proposition time clearly presented you a black and white word, where the things are or wrong or right, when all human beings are imperfect only because they sometimes do mistakes, where the fact of being a human, the fact of being effective because you care about a person, you love a person, is a bad thing and not a good thing. We firmly believe instead that is not true. In our words, being effective for a person is something that demonstrates how much you love it. So we obviously understand the fact that in giving a grade for exam, we have to have a sort of objective, and that's why in a country model we have 50% of use of AI and 50% use of teachers. In this case, we somehow look at the future, so see that obviously exams should always have some kind of objective side, but on the other hand, we also understand the fact that we are human beings and we're not machines. We don't understand, we don't want to live in a world where we are all right or not, because we see a lot of shapes or that. So we want a world where human beings are being evaluated for their most important value, humanity. And that's what proposition team didn't actually understand by our word. Our word is better because when you have a bad day, you know that you can rely on someone. Our word is better because the teacher is not not just an abstract adult, someone that is far from you, but a teacher is your second parent, is your mother, is your father, that can help you when you need help. We don't agree when you say that during the exam you evaluate all the year, because it's a path, and you can't just evaluate a whole year just by 2 hours. When the teacher knows you, when the teacher knows that you actually could have done the exam better, give you a second chances, give you the chance to do another exam, to do it again in order to give your best performance. But anyway, we cannot just pretend that just giving it just to the AI, because all this would just not be there. So the word of the proposition team is kind of a sad word, because we have all black and white, and we don't want to live in that world. We want to live in a world that is human, a world where we have empathy, where we want to help each other, and that's we think is the more important role of the teacher, because every teacher has a formative word, a formative role, and we cannot just ignore it. The teacher and the school as an institution itself has a formative role, and just giving numbers to us is not the solution. When all of us are at school and the teachers give us a grade, the teacher always say, remember, this grade doesn't actually is a grade for your person, it's a grade of this exam. And that's how they help us to understand that they're not evaluating us as a person, but just our performance. So we cannot, also basing on that, we cannot just rely on AI, because it's not human. We don't want to live in a world where machine can substitute the work of human. Humanity in general is really important and fundamental and cannot be substituted or replaced. That's the end of my speech.
Next speaker for the time polite speech, that was 3 minutes and 51 seconds, and we close this debate by giving the floor to the reply speaker for proposition team.
Is everybody ready? Great, okay. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. I know, last week I had a fight with the love of my life. Would it be possible to get an 80 in my speaker score? That would be really amazing, thank you. So, just to clarify, in this motion, because my speaker extensively mechanized why the model should follow proposition, I won't talk about it. We don't care about it. In the analysis, I use the assumption that opposition gives us, because again, it's irrelevant. We still win this debate, even if we fall, even if you believe what opposition said. So, as for, the reply speaker of proposition, what can you expect from this speech? First, I'll give you the clash on which you adjudicate this debate and the criteria that you should analyze when talking about the clash. Then I will analyze what the proposition and the opposition said and do the comparative. Let's start with the first clash of this debate, in which word grading is fairer. The criteria in this case is which system actually evaluates people's abilities. So on proposition, what we push is that teachers have inherent biases due to the relationship. They're biased based on previous beliefs, racism, sexism, whatever. Therefore, AI, having no access to any info, won't be influenced by those biases, therefore it will be fair. Furthermore, teachers have systems to help students when they're going through a tough time. Like, they have systems to postpone their quizzes, they have systems to give them private lessons to help them get to the grade. That's what a good teacher will do in both words, in both situations. In what we instead we get from proposition is that the main push is that it's important to consider emotions or life tragedies when assigning to be fairer towards students. Let's look at a comparative. First, why should we choose the criteria of actually evaluating people's abilities? Let's get it. Exams are a certification that you have reached a certain level. Therefore, they have to evaluate their performance to understand whether or not you're ready. I'm not letting an engineer build my house if he had a problem during the exam and the teacher left him passing whatever. Maybe he wasn't ready even if he had that day. So the point is that comparing both words, we grant to reduce bias at least a bit, while still caring about students' life. Through teachers' intervention before the exam, but once the exam starts, What, like the only thing that has to matter is whether or not you're ready at the moment. Teachers have helped throughout the year to help them. Teachers have helped before the exam, methods to help them before the exam to like pass and like survive those bad moments, but they shouldn't be influenced. They shouldn't be influenced, the examination shouldn't be influenced in the moment, because I have to be sure 100% that you are actually able to do what I'm expecting you to be able to do. So, this clash heavily falls on proposition because we are the only side that has an objective analyzer of the exams. So this means that you send the proposition. Second, smaller question. Which word grants a higher success rate in corrections? The comparative is kind of weird because we don't really get a strong answer from opposition at this point, except for what the first speaker said in their model, like the AI would like can't correct the teacher when it happens. And let's not consider the example of ChatGPT making mistakes, because I mean we can create a better AI, like whatever. Okay, so this clash becomes, in their best case scenario, a wash, because in both words AI is correcting, in both words AI is not making mistakes. But what we're saying is that if AI if the teacher makes a mistake, AI might miss it. Well, in our case, AI, even if you believe that AI is 100% the only one correcting, will have the complete autonomy to correct the exam, making sure that it gets corrected fairer. So, what should you adjudicate on? Because we are the only side that grants a fair actual examination, that grants that results are actually the one that students have achieved, that grants that students are actually prepared to do whatever they have to do in the word, you should stand with side proposition. Because we are the only side that actually protects and actually makes sure that the success rates are actually high in correction, you should stand with side proposition. So for all these reasons, I have never, ever, ever been prouder to propose. Thank you, everybody.